You can start basically anywhere with anything you want, it seems, and begin asking these why questions. We started here with Philosophy 2010, and we asked, why do you want to take this course? We could have started with any other thing you wanted, and probably if we keep asking why questions, we would end up with hitting a wall here, or something like here, which is the ultimate reason that we do the things we do seems to be in order to acquire pleasure for ourselves and in order to avoid pain for ourselves. This kind of chart that you can do for yourself, this mapping of the structure of your own desires, it illustrates two things. The first thing is that there are really two fundamental ways of desiring something or desiring an end. The first, we can desire something for the sake of something else. So money is a really clear-cut paradigm case of something that we all want, but we only want it for the sake of what it can get us. Nobody rationally wants money just for the sake of having it. To the extent that you can sort of think of maybe a Scrooge-like character who just hoards money, that person is either psychologically odd or irrational in some way, or if they're not, what they're really trying to get is something like the feeling of security out of the money. The money itself is not something that anybody ever rationally desires for its own sake as an end in itself. According to the thesis of psychological egoism, there are things that we desire for their own sake and not merely as an instrument or as a tool to acquire other things, but what we desire for its own sake always bottoms out at something that has to do with our own self-interest. The easiest examples are acquiring pleasure for myself, which is in my self-interest, and avoiding pain for myself, which is also in my self-interest. So we're going to follow Feinberg in defining egoism, psychological egoism, as the view that the only thing that anyone, that is any human being ever, is capable of desiring as an end in itself, or the way Feinberg puts it is ultimately, is his or her own self-interest. Remember that psychological egoism is a thesis about human motives. So the egoist doesn't say, oh, no one ever refrains from doing things that are in their short-term self-interest, nor does the egoist say, no one ever does something that is in the interest of another person. The egoist instead says our ultimate motives for doing these things when we do them ultimately has to do with what benefits us. So in this case, I mean, there are many different possible egoistic motives that we could come up with. Why might you want to go ahead and call your mom even though it might be something you don't want to do in the moment? Well, you might want to maintain a good relationship with your mom. And you might think, I'm not going to be super happy if she's annoyed with me because I never call her. So that would be a reason why it would be in your own interest to spend that bit of time in order to help the relationship. Likewise, driving your friend to the airport, initially it seems like, well, that's quite a sacrifice of time and money and the rest. But of course, you might hope that when you're in a similar bind and you don't want to have to park your car at the airport when you're going on a trip, that your friend will return the favor and drop you off. Or you might think, similarly with this first case, that having a good relationship with my friend involves sometimes sacrificing a little bit, and I care a lot about having that relationship because it makes me feel good. It's part of my happiness to have a good relationship with my friend. And then finally, refraining from cheating on your test, there are risks, big risks with cheating. One of which, of course, is that you could get caught. And the motive for not cheating might be something like, hey, if I get caught, it'll be in the end worse for me than if I take the L and get the lower grade. Other possible motives for each of these actually would be staving off the guilt that you might feel if you don't do them. Or in this case, if you cheat, you might feel like even if I got away with it, I couldn't live with myself and I would feel bad. And that, to me, I value more highly than the possibility of getting that one good grade. So in each case, the egoist has at least initially plausible sounding motives that they can ascribe to you for doing these behaviors that in the short term seem to redound to the benefit of another person rather than to yourself. There are longer term benefits to you for each of these. The question really for the egoist and for you to think about is whether these are plausible explanations for your own behavior and more generally for all human altruistic behaviors. The main theme of Plato's Republic is the question, what is justice? It's important to keep in mind as you read that by justice, Plato and the characters in the book mean something a little different from what we mean today by justice. For them, I think justice encompasses what we would call morality or doing the right thing. Another way to understand their central question is what is virtue or what is moral character? Now, throughout the Republic, the characters move back and forth between a discussion about what justice in a city is, roughly what is a good or well-functioning city on the one hand, and what is justice in a soul, or what is a virtuous soul on the other. And they do this for interesting reasons. They think that there should be a symmetry or matching between their theory of what justice in a city is and what justice in an individual person is. Our focus in bringing up Plato's Republic and discussing it in the context of psychological egoism is really on the question of justice in a soul. And again, by that, we will mean something like, what is a virtuous person or a virtuous soul, a morally virtuous character? And in particular, at the beginning of Book 2, after a sort of rhetorical battle with a character known as Thrasymachus, who has defended the position that, in fact, being unjust or being sort of cruel and vicious is much better for a person than being just or virtuous. At the beginning of Book 2, Thrasymachus has slunk off because he can't defend his own arguments. But still, he raised a point that the characters think is worth pursuing. And so they ask, in particular, Glaucon, who is playing the devil's advocate position and one of Socrates' discussion partners, he says, Socrates, you didn't really answer Thrasymachus. Thrasymachus's question, or a better version of the question, was, is it the case that justice is desirable or good for its own sake? Or is it the case that the only reason that anyone wants to be just or do the right thing is as an instrument to getting something they want? And here's what Socrates says. He says, I myself put it, that is justice, in the finest category. The category that anyone who is going to be blessed with happiness must love, both because of itself and because of its consequences. So what is he saying here? Well, for us, the most important thing is that Socrates is making a claim that really is at odds with the psychological egoist's explanation of good human behavior. What Socrates says here is that we human beings, not always, but we're at least capable of this, we are capable of desiring justice or morality in our sense for its own sake. So here what we have is a competing explanation of why it is that you might call up your mom, for example, or why you might decide to sacrifice some time and money to drive your friend to the airport, or why you might decide to help a stranger in need. Socrates says, sometimes our motives aren't great. Sometimes we do these things for show, or sometimes we expect something in return. But it doesn't follow that we never, ever want to do these things just in order to benefit another person, or more abstractly, for the sake of a commitment to doing what's right. And Socrates thinks that is something that human psychology is capable of, even if we aren't always appropriately motivated. Justice or morality is in fact desirable for its own sake. So what we now have is a competition of two theories of human motivation. On the one hand, we have the psychological egoist theory, which says when you do anything good for another person, when you do anything that we might describe as moral, or on the other hand, when you do something that is refraining from engaging in an immoral act, the only reason you do those things is that you think ultimately it will redound to your own self-interest to do them. Whereas Socrates says, no, sometimes the reason why you do something that is considered good is just because you think this is good in and of itself, regardless of whether it benefits me. How then can we possibly choose between these two competing theories of human motives? Initially, it's hard to see what could break the tie. Both of them seem like empirically adequate explanations of human behavior. In the rest of Book 2 of the Republic, what we get from the character of Glaucon is an attempt to break the tie in favor of the psychological egoist. And this is his argument, his attempted tiebreaker is the famous Ring of Gyges thought experiment. We have these two competing explanations for good behaviors. On the one hand, the egoist says we're always somehow secretly after our own self-interest. And then Socrates says not always. Sometimes we just want to do the right thing for its own sake. How can we break this tie, or this apparent tie between these two explanations? How can we choose which of these is a better explanation of human behavior? Glaucon, the character that Socrates is talking to in Republic Book 2, his sort of genius idea is, well, the part of the problem is that in ordinary life, most of the time, doing the right thing is in our self-interest. It's not in your self-interest to cheat on the test because you probably will get caught. It is in your self-interest to help your friend because they might help you. And it may even sometimes be in your self-interest to do things quite extraordinary, up to and including sacrificing quite a bit of your self-interest, because being seen to be doing these things can be highly can motivate others to reward you socially. And likewise, refraining from harming other people, even when you're really mad at them, is in your interest, because if you do, you will have violated laws, get caught, and go to jail. So what we really need to do if we're going to test this hypothesis, or these two competing explanations of human behavior, is consider a hypothetical circumstance where it's no longer in our self-interest to behave morally and to refrain from behaving immorally. Glaucon's thought is, if in that circumstance your commitment to doing the right thing remains, then that's a good indication that, as a matter of fact, you are motivated by the desire to do the right thing. On the other hand, if in a circumstance where it is no longer in your self-interest to do the right thing, if in that circumstance you turn away from doing what's right and begin to pursue immorality, that is an indication that you never really cared about doing the right thing or justice in the first place. So, what kind of circumstance could this be? This is the famous Ring of Gyges passage. Here's what Glaucon says. The story goes that he was a shepherd, this is Gyges of Lydia, in the service of the ruler of Lydia. There was a violent thunderstorm, and an earthquake broke open the ground and created a chasm at the place where he was tending sheep. Seeing this, he was filled with amazement and went down into it. And there, in addition to many other amazing things of which we are told stories, he saw a hollow bronze horse. There were window-like openings in it, and peeping in, he saw a corpse, which seemed to be of more than human size, wearing nothing but a gold ring on its finger. He took off the ring and came out of the chasm. He wore the ring at the usual monthly meeting of shepherds that reported to the king on the state of the flocks. And as he was sitting among the others, he happened to turn the setting of the ring toward himself, toward the inside of his hand. When he did this, he became invisible to those sitting near him, and they went on talking as if he had gone. He was amazed at this, and fingering the ring, he turned the setting outward again and became visible. So he experimented with the ring to test whether it indeed had this power, and it did. If he turned the setting inward, he became invisible. If he turned it outward, he became visible. As soon as he realized this, he arranged to become one of the messengers sent to report to the king. On arriving there, he seduced the king's wife, attacked the king with her help, killed him, and in this way took over the kingdom. What is the lesson of this story? It's not that Gyges of Lydia is in particular worse or better than anyone else, nor is it that wearing the ring changed Gyges of Lydia in any fundamental way. I mean, the ring, unlike Tolkien's ring from Lord of the Rings, doesn't have any magical effect on a person's psychology. All it does is turn you invisible. Glaucon, after telling this story, gives us a hint as to what the lesson is supposed to be. He claims that the reason why Gyges of Lydia turned to immorality so quickly, I mean, he turned to killing the king and taking over the kingdom, is simply because what the Ring of Gyges did was shielded him from any possible consequence socially for wrongdoing. And I mean, we could also add that when you're invisible, you don't get any benefits from doing good things. So what the Ring of Gyges does, its function in the story, is to shield the individual wearing it from social punishment for wrongdoing and social praise or reward for doing the right thing. In other words, the Ring of Gyges is supposed to reveal what your real motivations were for doing what you did in the first place. To the extent that Gyges of Lydia just spent his time tending his sheep and minding his own business and never considered seriously going to take over the kingdom and killing the king, it was because he knew he couldn't get away with it. It wasn't because he had some deep principled commitment to doing what's right. The only reason he never did it is because he knew he would be caught and killed if he did. As soon as he thought, I can get away with this, he pursued complete immorality or injustice. Here's what Glaucon says, and this is importantly not just a point about Gyges in particular. Glaucon says the same would be true of you, and the same would be true of me. And indeed, this is supposed to be a deep prediction about the nature of human behavior and human motives in general. He says no one, it seems, would be so incorruptible that he would stay on the path of justice, or bring himself to keep away from other people's possessions and not touch them, when he could take whatever he wanted from the marketplace with impunity, go into people's houses and have sex with anyone he wished, kill or release from prison anyone he wished, and do all the other things that would make him like a god among humans. And in so behaving, he would do no differently than the unjust person. But both would pursue the same course. So Glaucon's prediction is that you give the Ring of Gyges to MLK. You give the Ring of Gyges to Mother Teresa. And in a short period of time, both of those figures that we think of as moral heroes very quickly would turn to complete and utter immorality because they now know they can get away with it and they won't receive any praise for pursuing the interests of others. I want you to, on the discussion thread this week, consider the following question. Try to make this a sort of, first personal reflective question and try to be as honest as you can with yourself and with others. What would you do with the Ring of Gyges? I mean this to be as serious as possible. I mean, are there things that you currently don't do that you would do if you had the ring? A follow-up question I want you to think about is, are there any lines you wouldn't cross? What are they and why? And how sure are you that you wouldn't cross them eventually? I want you to imagine that you have the ring not just for a moment, but for the rest of your life, such that you can become accustomed to stealing, for example, and getting away with it. The question is whether over time, as you become more and more confident that you can get away with things you previously couldn't, whether your behavior would begin to worsen. Not because it was changing you, but because it's in fact revealing who you were all along. That is at least what Glaucon, playing devil's advocate, says. And he thinks, back to the tie-breaking point, if you agree with him that you would effectively change your behavior and become horribly immoral in your overt actions when you wear the Ring of Gyges, that shows that psychological egoism was true all along. It was true of you, it was true of me, it was true for everyone. On the other hand, if you think I or perhaps some other person might wear the ring and not change at all, then that's some indication that perhaps Socrates was right, that at least some of us want to do the right thing for its own sake and not simply because we think we can get something out of it.